On to the second game we're going to discuss, Mo. Week 17 bets. Saints at Bucks. This line down to Tampa Bay -2.5. It was 3 earlier in the week. So the look ahead was Tampa Bay -1.5. And we saw the line spike up after the Bucks knocked off Jacksonville at home. They've won 4 straight. I'm looking to sell Tampa Bay high, or at the peak of their market rating, sell high spot for me on the Bucks, even though they have a chance to clinch the NFC South with the win over the Saints. So obviously a lot to play for the Bucks as well. And the Saints are fighting for their playoff lives. They'll need help to get in, whether it's the wild card race or through trying to win the division title. But still a playoff opportunity for the Saints if they win this game. And the Bucks, keep in mind, they've been one of the luckier teams in the NFL. When you look at turnover differential, tied for the best turnover differential in the league at +10. And they've gotten their fair share of breaks, whether it's with turnover variance or with their pass defense not being exploited enough. This is a secondary that ranks bottom 12 in both EPA per dropback allowed and passing success rate. And I get it. It's very difficult to trust Derek Carr, as I wrote up in my betting column this week, which you could find over at thelines.com. But you look back at last week, Thursday night, which I lost my Saints bet in that game, but 4 possessions in Rams territory for the Saints where they didn't score. And you had a egregious drop from Chris Olave in the latter part of the first half that wound up going for a Rams touchdown, I believe, or regardless, Rams points right before the half that kind of swung the game. So I think this is a get-right spot here for the Saints passing attack. If you could stomach betting Derek Carr, especially with Carlton Davis, the Bucs' #1 cornerback, dealing with that concussion and likely out. And then it's not just a sell high spot for the Bucs overall, sell high spot for Baker Mayfield, who's been great over his last 4 games, 3rd best adjusted EPA per dropback during that stretch. But you mentioned Goff against man-to-man versus zone defenses. Mayfield going up against a primarily cover 3 defense, or at least the Saints run the cover 3 at the 5th highest rate across the NFL. And Baker's passer rating dips over 20 points against zone coverage. So 3rd best adjusted EPA per dropback during this 4-game win streak. But I think we see Mayfield come back down to earth against a pass defense that, yes, doesn't have its #1 cornerback either. They've been without him over their last 3 or 4 games or so on injured reserve. But I think the Saints are able to confuse Mayfield off of the mini bye weeks. You have 10 days to prep for this game. And I think New Orleans at least keeps this one close, if not wins the game outright. I would wait to see if this one rises back up to the key number of 3, but I still like it down to 2. Mo, any takes, any bets for you on this one?
Not really. Not a whole lot to add. I would say one interesting thing, I don't know if this is a high motivation spot for the Bucs. I mean, they can actually just win their last game against Carolina, and I think this game's irrelevant if the New York Times calculator that I was using is correct. So
you are.
Yeah, can't argue with your number for sure. But yeah, the Saints are such a. I know, like, our boss, one of our bosses, Brett Colson, on, when we do Gridiron Gamble, he's always saying the Falcons are the yo-yo team. You bet the opposite of what I kind of feel like the Saints are that way too, though. So every time you start believing, they'll lay an egg. Every time you write them off, they'll play well. So since they were pretty poor last week, in theory, we should maybe see a better game this week. I honestly, I've barely watched the Saints, I feel like, the last few weeks, so I don't have a ton to add. Only thing I'm wondering about in this game, which some of what you talked about plays into, the total seems a little bit low to me with some of the Bucs' defensive injuries and how the Saints do, I think, have some beatable corners out there. Both passing games are, put in a position, especially in good weather, playing in Tampa Bay, to potentially have success. But man, it's 2 coaching staff that especially offensive coaching staffs, that I just absolutely hate giving my money to. So probably just nothing for me.
Well, I'll take the play for the both of us, and you can cheer me on, hopefully.